Hello Ride On people, Happy New Year to you. Today it looks kind of very beautiful outside. It's very sunny, blue skies, looks lovely, but it's actually about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm kind of freezing my ass off here talking to you. And I guess that means it's winter, and one of the most contentious issues on web forums and stuff is, should you winterize your bike, and if so, how? Or there's massive arguments about it either way. Basically, it's like asking people, should they have guns or not have guns, or should they watch porn, or anyway, moving on. Should you or should you not winterize your bike? Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're all grown people, but for me personally, it's a no. I think you only need to do two things. Here's the first one. And once you've warmed the bike through and it's nice and hot, normal operating temperature, you can turn it off. Right, I've put a more appropriate jacket on now because I was really seriously cold. So what's the second thing then? Well, the second thing is that some of you out there might be thinking, it's alright for you, Rich, you live in nice sunny Georgia where it's not usually this cold, it's usually nice and warm, and you can ride kind of 10-11 months of the year round quite comfortably. You might be thinking, it's alright, but I live in Manchester, Rich, the rainy city where the sunshine doesn't. So if you live in the north of England, for instance, where it's always kind of pissing down with rain and freezing cold all the time, then well, not all the time, but you know what I mean, guys, if you live up there, then you'll probably want an Optimate charger or some kind of plug-in for your battery. And some bikes, like BMW here, for instance, has a connector already fitted to the bike usually. I think BMW do that nowadays. If not, your dealer usually will do that for you, and that's automatically connected to your battery. It's got a pull-off cap on the end. Just plug it in, plug the Optimate charger in, plug that straight into your mains charger in the wall socket, and that will charge your battery on a trickle charge. So it'll slowly ensure that you have maximum charge in there, and it won't overcharge the battery, so it won't damage the battery. Now, contrary to popular belief, batteries don't usually get damaged by the cold. They're actually damaged by heat. Heat is extremely bad for batteries. It's just that they don't work particularly efficiently when it's cold, which is why we tend to think, and correctly, that it's the cold that kills batteries. And particularly if you're in those cold, wet environments where you may not be able to ride for 4, 5, 6 months of the year, depending how hardcore you are, then I would highly recommend one of those. So the two things I really recommend are starting it at least once a week, running it through to normal temperature. I always ensure that the bike is fully upright before I start the bike. I just like the idea of all the fluids and the oil and the water and everything being a level setting in the bike before starting the bike. And I really want to run it just to get rid of the condensation, make sure the battery doesn't have a problem. There's no other issues I can see with the bike. Just kind of turns the wheels round, the tyres round and stuff, wheel it out the garage, start it up, and then put it back, and that's good enough for me. So what do others think? I know you'll leave some comments, and you'll have your own views, and you'll say, my mate Steve, who's a mechanic, he's an expert, and yeah, great. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an engineer, I'm just a guy who's ridden bikes for 40 years or so. I know what works for me, and I'm comfortable with that. So you have to do what's right for you. And some guys will, they'll be saying, oh no, there's acids in the engine, you need to drain all the fluid out of the engine, you need to get rid of the coolant out of the hoses, there may be rust inhibitors within your exhaust system, and you need to put fuel stabilizers in your tank, and if you don't remove all the fuel in your tank, it will rust internally, and you'll come back in the spring and there'll be nothing left but a heaping pile of rusting rot. Well, I think that's rot, personally. I think it's nonsense. And the reason why I think that is, I don't know, for instance, I used to have a friend who was a dispatch rider. He had an XS 1100 Yamaha. Now, he had several bikes, and that wasn't his primary bike for dispatching on, but he had that bike, I don't know, when I knew him, about 15 years in his garage. He never used it. But every couple of weeks or so he'd wheel it out, start it up, just run it. I mean, some years he actually had to put fuel in it because just on tick over he'd run out of fuel. And that bike had the same oil in it from day one. It had the same spark plugs, everything, the same fuel until it was run out. I never drained it, never did anything with it. And then I think one day when all these other bikes were expired, he actually had to use it for a while for dispatching on, and I think he did like another 100,000 miles on it or something. He did about 200,000 miles on it before it died. Now, to me, with that ancient technology and those old bikes, if they can do it, modern ones can, certainly. And I think personally, you're just throwing money down the drain if you winterize your bike to that kind of extreme extent. I mean, maybe if you're going to put it away for 5, 10, 15 years, yeah, maybe, you know, seek some professional advice, put it in a plastic bubble, suck out all the air out of it or something, you know, do whatever you need to do. But for the average rider who's putting his bike away for, 12 weeks or whatever and stuff, just start the bloody thing once a week. Just get rid of the condensation on it, make sure your battery's good. I would recommend an Optimate charger. I mean, I haven't needed one for years just because modern bikes are so good, but I've got one if I need it, and it's always a good backup, and particularly if you live in a cold or wet climate, and I would say definitely do that. Otherwise, the best cure for not having to winterize your bike, ride it. So with that said, plane going overhead. With that said, ride often, ride safely, and ride on.